Today we're going to do what is a traditional Northern Ireland dish called champ. Now, at the end of the day, it's really just mashed potatoes. I guess back in the day it would have been what you would have called a workers come peasant come rough raw sort of food. It certainly wasn't the sort of thing I don't think they served up at cordon bleu restaurants. But my grandma made it, and loads of people I know made it. It's basically just mashed potatoes done with spring onions, or as they're known around here, scallions. Now, traditionally it was served as a mound of mashed potato. You made a dimple in the top, and you took a big blob of cheese and put it in. It would melt, and people would dip their mashed potato in the butter and eat it. It was a heart attack in every mouthful, but I'm not doing it that way. I want something more with my mashed potato, but the mashed potato will be champ, done to the same. And we're going to do some pork with it, because pork's nice. Some people used to eat it with fish, some people used to eat it with bits of bacon and things like that. I'm just going to use some pork bellies, which I'm going to make an onion gravy with, and we're going to have it with that. So instead of having a big vat of melted butter to clog my arteries, I'm going to have a big vat of onion gravy to clog my arteries, which I think will probably be a bit less artery clogging. So we've got these pork bellies down here. We're going to use 4 out of the 5. The big fat one we will keep for another thing another day. I'll probably do a Chinese soup or something with it like that, but we'll see what's going to go into that. We've got a small to medium onion and a gluten-free stock cube. So let's get stuck in. I'm going to start by doing something I don't usually do, but some people have moaned at me, which is I'm going to brown the meat slightly. So normally I wouldn't bother with this, I just chuck it in because I'm a lazy cook and I don't really care what it looks like, because I look at my dinner with my tongue, I'm afraid. It's how it tastes, not how it looks. But some people are very looks oriented. So I'm just going to brown the tops and bottoms of this meat before we get started. Right, so I'm going to put these in the pot, and I'm sure a lot of people say, pot? I'm not using a frying pan. I can use a frying pan, but I've got all this nice wood panelling just behind my cooker, and you know what? Fats will stick to it. So I'm going to put it in a pot and put a lid on top just to stop the splatter. Pot, pan, who cares? Put that in there, it'll fit a little better. Perfect.
Yeah, perfect.
And I'll just set that there.
Oh yes, definitely goodie.
And all that juice will be getting used in the gravy. Alright, so we're going to start by chopping this fairly fine, and then I'll be frying it lightly, and then I will be putting the pork bellies in on top and a bit of water, and just leaving them to cook for a couple of hours, because pork bellies are nice enough, but they can be very tough. So if you're using a better cut of pork, you don't have to wait for ages. If you're using something like pork bellies, you want to give them a slow cook. I'm giving them a slow cook for a couple of hours, and then we'll do the potato thing.
That's better.
Got oil in the pot, in goes the onion. Might as well put the stock cube in while we're at it.
Oh yeah.
Well, I'm pretty sure that my ancestors didn't put garlic and black pepper into their onion gravy, but let's move on. So I put about a clove of garlic in, and I'm going to put in about half a teaspoon or so of black pepper. Right, I'm now just transferring my browned off bits of pork, and I'm certainly not wasting all that juice that came out, because that is just raw flavour. And I'm not wasting any of it.
Yummy.
Okay. Right, so I've put the juices in, and I've rinsed out the pot that the thing's in to make sure I got all the juice, and I've put just enough liquid to come level with the top of the meat. So I mean, I don't want this swimming in liquid. I want enough to cook the meat thoroughly and to provide me with a nice gravy. So that's bubbling away. I'm going to leave it cooking for at least an hour, maybe an hour and a half, and then I'm going to do the potatoes. So I'm just peeling the potatoes. The weather outside is absolutely dreadful. It's been hailstones and driving rain and things like that. It's the sort of day you want comfort food for, and hopefully this is going to be comfort food. So I'm just going to do a few potatoes. I'm just going to boil them and wait for them to get cooked through, then I'm going to mash them. Okay, so I've got 600 grams of potatoes here. I'm going to add boiling water and put it on the cooker for a bit just to get it bubbling. I'm also going to put a bit of salt in because, quite frankly, potatoes don't really taste an awful lot. So I'm just going to put a little bit of salt into the potatoes to give them some flavour, boiling water, and then it's just going to let the whole thing simmer for an hour until these are cooked through. Those big potatoes I had a minute ago, I've cut into chunks, and the chunks, in case anybody wants to know what size they are, well, they're about that size, whatever size that turns out to be. Don't cut them too small, because if you do, they just fall to bits. Don't cut them too big, because if you do, they don't cook in the middle. So you're wanting something that basically, well, in my case, fits easily in the palm of my hand. In fact, I'll probably get a couple of them in. But, yeah, so you want sort of like small potato size. That's what you're really aiming for. So, a little bit of salt. There we go. And then a bit of boiling water, and off we go. Mind your lens doesn't steam up, camera person. Well, while the potatoes are cooking, I've got these things. These are what most people tend to call spring onions. I've been told they're also known as green onions. In Northern Ireland, they're known as scallions. And this is what you put in champ. So what I'm going to do is, I've got 600 grams of potatoes, so I'm going 60 grams of scallions. 1 to 10. That's roughly what you're aiming for here. And the bad weather's come back. I'm going to chop these up, and what we do is we put them in milk. Now, when you're making mashed potatoes, normally the procedure is cook the potatoes, add butter, mash them up, add milk until you get them soft and creamy. What we're going to do is move the milk stage a bit. We'll cook these, we'll add butter, we'll mash them up, but the milk will be in the pan with the scallions. And the idea is you want the oniony flavour of these to go into the milk. You then put the milk in and mash it all together in it, so the oniony flavour goes into the potatoes, because potatoes don't taste an awful lot. So the idea is you cut these up, warm them in milk. You do not want the milk to curdle, and then let it sit for a while so the essential onioniness can percolate into the milk. And then we make mashed potato as normal, but instead of using cold milk straight from the fridge, we'll use warm onion infested milk from the pot. So 60 grams of scallion and just enough milk to cover them. Because at the end of the day, if you put too much milk in, it turns to soup instead of mashed potato. If you don't put enough milk in, it just stays lumpy. So it's a bit of a fine balance, but we'll see what we can do. Right, so here is a scallion. You often find it's got a leaf on the outside, it looks a bit weak and nasty. You just grab it and pull it off. It's no big deal. And then we just nip off, there's a bit more there. We just nip this off with a knife. There's a nice clean, and that looks a bit nasty up there, so we'll just take that off. So this little bunch here now weighs about 58 grams, that's 60 grams. It's close enough to a tenth of 600 grams. So I'm going to chop them up now into little rings and things. I'm going to drop them in there, I'm going to cover them in milk, and then we're going to warm them up and just leave them alone. The danger of doing these things is they tend to run around the place. They tend to go on their little travels if you're not careful. Like that one. Right, it's been an hour since we put the potatoes in, and they are now cooked. I've got my potatoes out, and in case you're not sure, you can tell they're cooked by using a potato tester. And what you do is you stick it in the potato, and it should go in with very little resistance. If there's a hard lump in the middle, it's not cooked. Put it back for a while. It's been about an hour, like I say. This is the part where I disappear behind huge clouds of steam, because what I'm going to do now is just drain the water off. It's just a simple matter of pouring it away. Job number 1 is to add butter to this and mash it up. Now traditionally at this point you also add milk to your mashed potato, but our milk is in here. And what we have is warmed milk and the spring onions, the scallions, and trust me, it smells very oniony. You can smell it wafting up. Those onions have gone soft. They're not particularly brilliantly cooked. It's not like they've been fried or anything. They've just been left in warm milk to soften up. And what we're going to do is put the butter in here, mash this up, and add all the onions and enough of the milk to make this into proper mashed potatoes.
I suppose what you need to do with this milk is add the milk without the onions.
Basically, yes. Because you'll need it to soften this up a bit. That's not looking too far adrift,
Not
is it?
too far adrift. Maybe a tad more milk, but that's about it. Just a little tad.
Yeah, well, I'm going to just put the onions in at this point. I think there'll be enough milk will come with the onions, so I'm not too worried. See, like that?
Yeah, I see what you mean. Because that'll be a stir rather than a mash.
It will. So that's the champ done. Now what I'm going to do is my pork bellies, which have been cooking for 2 hours. I'm going to take them out, but I'm going to thicken the gravy with a little bit of corn flour. It's gluten free, like the stock cube was, and it'll just give me a slightly thicker gravy. I like to have a fairly rich gravy. Just put a bit over these. This is a dribble.
Well, I'm the guinea pig for this because not coming from Northern Ireland, I've never eaten champ before. But you can really taste the onion because the milk has been infused with the onion. You can really give it the taste. It does make a difference. You know, it's got a lot more onion to that to the tatter. One thing for certain, on a day like this where it's just been horrible, it is very much good comfort food.